Hello, and welcome to today's episode, where we'll explore a crucial topic: junior leadership and the challenges of declining regimentation in the Nigerian Army. The roles of senior non-commissioned officers, SNCOs. Leadership at the junior level plays a critical role in shaping discipline and operational efficiency. And today, we'll dive deep into the challenges facing regimentation in the military and the pivotal role SNCOs play in reversing this trend. If this topic resonates with you, subscribe to the channel and hit the like button to support us. Don't forget to share this podcast or video with others in your network so the conversation grows. Let's jump right into it.
Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're diving deep into junior leadership in the Nigerian Army.
Okay.
And we're going to be looking at it through a really fascinating lens,
Yeah.
declining regimentation.
Right.
We've got a really interesting source material here. It's a PDF titled juniorleadership.pdf.
You know what's interesting about this topic is this is something that a lot of militaries around the world, not just the Nigerian Army, are grappling with, especially as the world changes.
Okay, so before we get into the decline part, let's set the stage for the listeners.
Okay.
Why are junior leaders so important in the Nigerian Army? I mean, it's not just about yelling orders on a parade ground.
Not at all. The junior leaders, those officers, and the NCOs, they are the crucial link between the strategic command and the troops that are actually on the ground carrying out the missions.
Right.
In a complex organization like the Nigerian Army, they're absolutely vital for maintaining discipline and morale and ultimately operational success.
Yeah, and I was struck by how the PDF really emphasized that their leadership, especially in combat situations like the ones the Nigerian Army faces, it can really be a matter of life and death.
Absolutely, yeah.
So talk about pressure.
Yeah, these junior leaders are expected to embody the very essence of military values.
Right.
Duty, loyalty, courage, professionalism, they set the standard for everyone else.
So that brings us to this idea of regimentation, which I gotta admit sounds maybe a little stuffy,
Right.
like something out of a history book.
Sure.
But the PDF makes it really clear that this isn't just about spit-shine boots.
It's much deeper than that, you know? Regimentation really is the bedrock of military culture.
Okay.
It's about instilling order and predictability in a system that often faces chaos.
So we're talking about punctuality,
Uh-huh.
following orders, that crisp uniform appearance, physical fitness,
Yes.
but also this deeper sense of discipline that goes beyond just appearances, right?
Precisely. It's about creating a structure where everyone understands the rules, understands the expectations.
Yeah.
Just imagine if everybody on the road just drove however they felt like.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be total chaos, right?
Right.
Regimentation is like the rules of the road for the Army.
Okay.
It keeps things running smoothly and safely.
And here's the alarming part. The research suggests that this bedrock of regimentation is actually showing some cracks in the Nigerian Army.
Right.
So what's causing this decline?
Well, the PDF highlights several contributing factors, and they're all intertwined in a complex way.
Okay.
One major issue is the lack of proper mentorship for junior leaders. They're not getting the guidance they need from their more experienced superiors,
Okay.
especially when it comes to navigating the unique challenges of the Nigerian Army.
So it's like being thrown into a leadership role with no instructions and just told to figure it out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And to compound that, you have the erosion of those core military values that we talked about earlier. Over time, the emphasis on discipline, respect for authority, and loyalty to the nation has waned.
Okay.
It's a gradual process, like a slow leak in a tire.
Right.
You might not notice it at first,
Right.
but eventually it leads to a breakdown.
The PDF also mentions complacency and informality.
Right.
I thought that was interesting.
Yes.
How does that play out specifically in the Nigerian Army?
Well, think about it this way. The Nigerian Army is constantly engaged in these very complex operations, battling threats like Boko Haram, contending with limited resources, vast terrain to cover. It's a demanding environment. And over time, this can create a sense of fatigue and perhaps a tendency to let standards slip a little bit. Imagine a unit responsible for vehicle maintenance becoming a little lax, not sticking to the strict maintenance schedule. That might seem like a minor thing, but it could have serious consequences in an ambush situation if a vehicle breaks down.
So we're not just talking about like being casual or informal in how the soldiers address each other.
Right.
but more of like an erosion of discipline that could impact operational readiness.
Precisely. And remember, this is all happening against the backdrop of the intense operational strain that the Nigerian Army is under.
Yeah.
They are constantly engaged in counterterrorism and internal security operations.
Right.
And that takes a toll on everybody.
Yeah.
It's like running a marathon every day.
Right.
Even the most disciplined individuals are eventually going to start to feel the fatigue.
So we've got inexperienced leaders, lacking guidance, eroding values, complacency setting in, and troops stretched thin by constant operations.
Yes.
It sounds like you're setting up these junior leaders to fail.
That's exactly what the PDF points out.
Yeah.
This decline in regimentation makes it incredibly difficult for junior leaders to command the respect that's needed to maintain discipline within their units.
Because if the rules themselves aren't clear or they're not consistently enforced,
Right.
that undermines the leader's authority from the very beginning.
Right. And you also have these varying standards across different units.
Right.
Some might be more relaxed while others are clinging tightly to tradition.
Yeah.
It leads to confusion, resentment, makes it nearly impossible for those junior leaders to establish their authority when the ground rules are constantly shifting.
Yeah, and I imagine that this is just a recipe for low morale, poor unit cohesion.
Right.
If everyone's playing by different rule, how can they function effectively as a team, especially when under pressure?
You're spot on. This lack of consistent discipline can lead to disillusionment within the ranks and a breakdown of that trust and camaraderie that soldiers rely on to get through these difficult missions.
It sounds like the impact goes way beyond just morale. This could actually jeopardize the Nigerian Army's ability to carry out its operations.
Absolutely. Military operations rely on precision, coordination, a shared understanding of the rules of engagement. Yeah.
When regimentation declines, you introduce an element of unpredictability and risk that can have serious consequences on the battlefield.
So we've painted a pretty bleak picture so far. Is there any hope? I mean, is the Nigerian Army destined to just crumble under the weight of all these challenges?
Well, the PDF actually offers a ray of hope.
Okay.
And it comes from a somewhat unexpected source.
Okay.
The senior non-commissioned officers, or as they're known, the SNCOs.
So these are the veterans, folks that have kind of risen through the ranks and seen it all. What makes them so crucial in this particular situation?
Think of SNCOs as the institutional memory of the Nigerian Army.
Okay.
They've not only witnessed the evolution of the Army, but they've been shaped by its values and traditions.
Right.
They understand the nuances of leadership in the Nigerian context, how to navigate the complex terrain, how to anticipate enemy tactics, even defuse tense situations that younger officers may not have the experience to handle. So they're not just enforcers of the rules, they're living examples of what those rules mean in practice.
Exactly. Their experience and authority make them invaluable assets.
Okay.
Especially when it comes to addressing these challenges that we've been discussing.
This is where I'm particularly interested. How do they translate that experience into solutions? What can they do that junior leaders, even with the best intentions, might struggle with?
Well, the PDF highlights several key areas where SNCOs can make a real impact, and it all boils down to their unique position within the Army structure.
Okay.
But we can delve into that in the next part of our deep dive.
All right, everyone, we're going to take a quick pause here.
Okay.
But don't go anywhere. When we come back, we'll unpack exactly how these SNCOs can help steer the Nigerian Army back towards a stronger, more disciplined force.
Sounds good. You know, it's fascinating how the PDF highlights those SNCOs.
Yeah.
Almost like they're the secret weapon that the Nigerian Army needs to rediscover.
All right, so before the break, we were talking about those SNCOs, those senior non-commissioned officers, the veterans of the Nigerian Army, and how they can help to turn the tide on this decline in regimentation.
Yeah.
So give us the details. What can they do that's so special?
Well, first and foremost, they can provide that crucial mentorship that's been missing for junior leaders.
Okay.
Think back to what we discussed about being thrown into leadership roles. Without enough guidance, the SNCOs can really bridge that gap.
So it's about more than just giving orders or lecturing from a manual. It's about sharing that practical wisdom based on real-world experience.
Exactly. A young officer might know the textbook definition of a flanking maneuver, but an SNCO can tell them how it really plays out in the dense Nigerian bush based on years of facing down insurgencies.
That's such a great example. It really brings it to life.
Because of their experience, SNCOs can instill not just knowledge, but the right attitude.
The right attitude.
That respect for the chain of command, that understanding of why seemingly small rules really matter when lives are on the line.
So you're saying that they're not just teaching the skills, they're shaping mindsets.
Exactly. And then there's the discipline aspect.
Right.
Because of their rank
Right.
and the respect that they command, SNCOs can help set a high bar for behavior across entire units,
Okay.
not just individual squads.
So they're not just mentoring one-on-one, they're influencing that overall culture of discipline.
That's right. Imagine an SNCO walking into a barracks
Yeah.
and instantly everyone straightens up, checks their uniform.
Right.
That silent authority
Right.
speaks volumes.
They're like the quality control experts.
Yeah.
Making sure that everyone is adhering to the same standard.
Yeah.
Regardless of their unit.
That's a fantastic analogy. And let's not forget the role that SNCOs play in preserving those traditions and those values that are at risk of being eroded.
Okay.
They're the living embodiment of the Nigerian Army's history and ethos.
So they're not just enforcing the rules, they're explaining the why behind them. You know, the history.
Exactly.
The sacrifices, the legacy
Yeah.
that these young soldiers are inheriting.
Precisely. It's about connecting the dots between past and present.
Yeah.
Showing how those seemingly outdated traditions have actually ensured survival in past conflicts,
Right.
earned the Army its respect,
Yeah.
things that a textbook just can't convey.
And beyond the practical and historical aspects,
Right.
the PDF also mentions that emotional support that the SNCOs can provide.
Yes.
They're the ones that have walked in those boots, faced those same pressures.
You're right. A junior leader might hesitate to admit
Yeah.
that they're struggling to a superior officer.
Right.
But they're much more likely to open up to an SNCO who's been there, done that. It's about having someone to lean on when the weight of command gets heavy.
It's like having a mentor, a therapist,
Right.
and a battle buddy all rolled into one.
Exactly. And that kind of support is invaluable, especially in an environment as demanding as the Nigerian Army.
So we've got these amazing SNCOs capable of mentoring, setting standards, preserving traditions, providing that crucial support.
Yes.
How do we actually integrate that into the system? Does the PDF give us any concrete steps the Nigerian Army can take to leverage this?
Absolutely. It all starts with training.
Yeah.
And the PDF really hits on this.
Yeah.
You can't just expect the SNCOs to do this all instinctively.
Right.
The Army needs to formally empower them
Yeah.
as trainers and mentors.
So are we talking about special programs, updated curriculum, dedicated time for this mentorship to happen?
All of the above.
Okay.
Imagine incorporating mentorship as a core component of officer training.
Okay.
Young officers are paired with experienced SNCOs from day one.
Right.
They learn not just from lectures, but by observing their mentors in action,
Okay.
debriefing after exercises, getting real-time feedback
Right.
on their leadership style.
So it's almost like an apprenticeship model
That's a perfect way to put it.
where they're passing down those intangible skills that can only be learned through experience.
And it's not just about training new officers.
Right.
The Army could also implement programs where junior officers that are already in the field
Right.
get regular mentorship sessions
All right.
with SNCOs,
Okay.
maybe focused on specific challenges they're facing.
So it's ongoing, not just a one-time fix.
Exactly. And for this to work,
Yeah.
we need to acknowledge the value of what these SNCOs are bringing to the table.
Right.
Recognize their contributions formally.
Okay.
Maybe even tying promotions or advancements to
Yeah.
their success as mentors.
It's about showing them that that experience is not only valued,
Right.
but that it's essential to the future of the Nigerian Army.
And let's not forget, the formal mentorship programs are great. But we also need to cultivate a culture where junior leaders feel comfortable
Right.
approaching SNCOs for advice even outside of those structured settings.
Yeah. So it's about creating an environment where seeking guidance isn't seen as a weakness.
Exactly.
It's seen as like a commitment to growth and improvement.
Spot on.
Right.
And all of this needs to be backed up
Yeah.
by strong leadership from the top.
Okay.
If the senior officers aren't actively promoting this culture of mentorship
Right.
and valuing the role of the SNCOs, it's unlikely to succeed.
So it's about leading by example.
Exactly.
Showing that seeking and providing mentorship is expected at all levels of the Army.
But training and mentorship, while crucial, are only part of the solution.
Okay.
The PDF also emphasizes the need for a renewed emphasis on accountability.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about that positive side.
Right.
The support, the guidance.
Yeah.
But let's get real for a second.
Okay.
What happens when things go wrong? What about those instances where soldiers, even junior leaders, just aren't meeting the standards?
That's where accountability comes in.
Okay.
And the PDS is very clear.
Yeah.
This isn't about being punitive.
Right.
Or creating a culture of fear.
Okay.
It's about establishing clear expectations and consequences for everyone, regardless of rank.
So it's about leveling the playing field.
Exactly.
Showing that everyone is held to the same standard.
Yeah.
Whether you're a new recruit or a seasoned captain.
Precisely. And it's about being consistent.
Okay.
If soldiers see that the rules are only enforced selectively, or that some individuals get a free pass because of their rank or their connections, it undermines the entire system.
Right. It breeds resentment.
Yeah.
Cynicism. It makes it seem like the rules don't really matter.
Exactly. But when accountability is applied fairly and transparently, it sends a powerful message.
What's that?
These rules aren't arbitrary. They're essential for the safety and effectiveness of the entire Army.
Right. It reinforces that sense of shared purpose, commitment, that's so important for unit cohesion, operational success.
And remember, accountability isn't just about punishment.
Okay.
It's also about recognizing and rewarding those who consistently meet or exceed expectations.
So it's a two-way street.
Absolutely.
You know, you're holding people accountable for their shortcomings, but you're also acknowledging and celebrating their success.
And that brings us to a crucial point.
Okay.
None of this happens in a vacuum. The PDF focuses on the Nigerian Army.
Right.
But we have to acknowledge that external factors play a significant role as well.
Yeah, so we've looked inward at the Nigerian Army. Now let's zoom out a little bit.
Right.
What's happening around the Nigerian Army?
Exactly.
That might be making this worse.
You got it. The internal challenges are significant, but understanding the external pressures is essential to grasping the full complexity of the situation.
All right, listeners, hold tight because things are about to get even more interesting.
Okay.
When we come back, we'll be exploring those external forces shaping the Nigerian Army's reality.
Yes.
Okay, so we're back and we're ready to kind of tackle this bigger picture.
Right.
You know, we've explored all these internal challenges within the Nigerian Army itself, discussed, the importance of mentorship, accountability, but like we hinted at before the break, there's this whole other layer to this.
It's crucial to remember that no military exists in isolation.
Right.
They're deeply intertwined with the political and social and economic realities of their nation.
Right.
And in Nigeria's case, those realities present some significant external pressures.
So let's unpack those a bit. What are we talking about specifically? Things happening outside the military that might be making this whole decline in regimentation even worse?
Well, consider Nigeria's political landscape.
Okay.
It's been marked by instability for decades.
Right.
With corruption, ethnic tensions, and a history of military coups, creating this climate of uncertainty.
That inevitably impacts the armed forces.
It makes sense. If there's a lack of trust in the civilian government, that can easily spill over into how people view the military.
Right.
And if the foundation is shaky, it's hard to build a strong, disciplined force on top of it.
Precisely.
Right.
Public confidence erodes. It becomes harder to attract qualified recruits, and those already serving might feel disillusioned, less motivated if they see corruption or a lack of support from the very system they're sworn to protect.
And on top of that, we've got the economic challenges that Nigeria faces. Limited resources, I imagine, puts a huge strain on the military.
Absolutely. When funding is tight, it means outdated equipment, inadequate training facilities, shortages of essential supplies. And when soldiers feel like they're being asked to do a lot with very little, it can really impact their morale and their willingness to adhere to those strict standards.
It's almost like they're set up to fail.
Why bother following all the rules if you're not given the tools to succeed?
That's a key insight.
Yeah.
It breeds a sense of resentment.
Yeah.
Undermines trust in leadership. And can lead to that complacency and informality that further erodes discipline.
And we can't forget about that psychological burden as well.
Yeah.
The Nigerian Army is constantly engaged in fighting Boko Haram, dealing with banditry, kidnappings.
Absolutely.
That takes a toll.
That constant exposure to violence and trauma
Right.
can lead to fatigue, burnout, even PTSD.
Right.
And when individuals are struggling with those invisible wounds, it becomes even harder to maintain the discipline and the focus that's needed for effective military operations.
It's like this vicious cycle.
Yeah.
The external pressures create these really difficult conditions, and then that impacts the soldiers' well-being, which then makes it harder to maintain discipline and effectiveness, which then makes it harder to address those initial external pressures. It's just overwhelming.
You summarized it perfectly.
Yeah.
It's a complex web of interconnected challenges.
Right.
And recognizing how those external pressures exacerbate the internal issues is crucial for understanding, the full scope of what the Nigerian Army is up against.
So it's like treating a patient. You can't just focus on the symptoms. You got to understand the underlying cause if you want to find a lasting solution. But are there solutions? If these problems are so deeply rooted in like the political and socioeconomic fabric of Nigeria, can they even be solved?
There are no quick fixes. That's for sure. And it requires a multi-pronged approach that goes beyond just military reforms. On a national level, tackling corruption, promoting good governance, fostering dialogue between different ethnic groups. These are all essential for creating a more stable and supportive environment for the military to operate in.
So it's about addressing those root causes of instability that we talked about. Building a society where people trust the institutions, feel represented by their government, believe in the rule of law.
Exactly. And that creates a foundation where the military can focus on its core mission, defending the nation, rather than constantly being pulled into these internal conflicts or struggling for resources.
Okay, so big picture solutions are essential.
Yeah.
But what about within the military itself? What can they do, even with all these external pressures, to mitigate the negative impacts and support their soldiers?
Well, one area that needs urgent attention is mental health support. Recognizing and addressing the psychological toll that these constant operations take on the soldiers is absolutely crucial. Providing access to counseling, therapy, peer support groups. These can make a huge difference.
It's about acknowledging that these soldiers are human beings, first and foremost.
Exactly.
They have emotions, they experience trauma.
And they need help to process and cope with what they've seen and done.
Especially in a culture where seeking help might be seen as a weakness.
That's such an important point. It's about creating a culture where seeking help is not only accepted, but encouraged. Where it's seen as a sign of strength and a commitment to being the best soldier you can be.
And I imagine that, in turn, builds trust and camaraderie within units.
Absolutely.
That feeling that you've got people watching your back. Not just on the battlefield, but emotionally as well. Can make a huge difference.
You're absolutely right. And alongside mental health support, the military can be more proactive in addressing those resource constraints that we talked about. While advocating for increased funding from the government is essential, there are things they can do internally to maximize what they already have.
So we're talking about getting creative, finding ways to do more with less.
Exactly. Streamlining logistics, improving efficiency, exploring new technologies that offer a bigger bang for the buck. And it's about empowering those junior leaders and SNCOs to take ownership and initiative at the local level. Give them the flexibility to find solutions that work in their specific context.
So it's about decentralizing decision-making.
Exactly.
Trusting those on the ground to know what's needed. Empowering them to make changes.
It fosters a sense of ownership, encourages innovation, ultimately makes the entire system more adaptable and resilient, even in the face of those limited resources.
This is all starting to sound like a leadership challenge as much as a logistical or resource challenge. It's about creating a culture that is adaptable, resilient, supportive, from the top down.
You've hit the nail on the head. It's about recognizing that the true strength of any military lies not just in its weapons or its numbers, but in the spirit and resilience of its people.
That's a really powerful statement. And it suggests that overcoming these challenges requires a fundamental shift in mindset. Not just within the Nigerian Army, but within Nigerian society as a whole.
It's a long-term project, for sure.
Right.
It demands sustained effort, political will, a commitment to addressing those deep-seated issues that have plagued Nigeria for decades.
Right.
But it's the only path toward breaking that cycle of instability and insecurity.
Well, this deep dive has been incredibly eye-opening.
It has.
We've explored the specific issue of declining regimentation in the Nigerian Army.
Yeah.
Uncovered the root causes, and ultimately zoomed out to see how that can impact Nigeria as a whole.
And we've discussed a range of potential solutions, from empowering SNCOs to tackling corruption, supporting the soldiers' mental health, to fostering that culture of adaptability and innovation.
It's a complex problem, but it's not insurmountable.
Right.
And it's clear that the future of the Nigerian Army and the future of Nigeria depends on addressing these challenges head-on.
You summed it up brilliantly.
Yeah.
It's a call to action for everyone involved, the military, the government, and the Nigerian people themselves.
Well, on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive.
Yes.
Huge thanks to you for guiding us through this complex and fascinating topic.
It was my pleasure.
And to you, the listener, I hope this deep dive has given you a deeper understanding of the challenges and the opportunities facing Nigeria.
Absolutely.
Remember, security is a shared responsibility.
It is.
The more informed we are,
the
better equipped we are to contribute to a more stable and prosperous future.
For sure.
For Nigeria and for the world.
Well said.
Keep exploring, keep asking those questions, and keep engaging with these issues. Until next time, keep diving deep.
Thank you for joining us for this thought-provoking discussion. If you found this video or podcast insightful, please subscribe to our channel and hit the like button to support us. Share with your friends and colleagues. Your engagement helps us reach a wider audience and spark deeper conversations. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Use the comments section to suggest the next topic or book you'd like us to cover in future episodes. Your feedback helps shape the direction of this platform, and we look forward to discussing your ideas in upcoming content.